Hello world, I'm Whitney Bandel and welcome to another video from my HTML and CSS course. In this video we will be looking at responsive design and future resources. So if you visit week 7 on Canvas, we've already looked at some of these other resources, and towards the bottom I have some links to different pages that can kind of assist you as you are thinking about responsive design, whether it's for the final project or for future projects. So the first one I have is what is the best screen size to design for in 2018. This is a little bit old, but it does give you a starting point. And they have these recommendations of different sizes. So the first one here is looking at 360 by 640. This would be a mobile dimension. Then we have 1366 by 768. This is sort of the size of a standard laptop screen. 1920 by 1080 would be a larger monitor. And then we have a couple of other variants. This looks like it's another mobile size. Here we have a couple other different dimensions. These ones are kind of way less common. If you use Photoshop or Illustrator at all, I'm going to open up both. It might take a second. If you use either one of these to kind of assist you with creating designs to start off with, let's do create new. There's a section called web, and here you can actually see common presets. So they're defining a common preset for web to be 1366 by 768. A large web size would be 1920 by 1080. They have a couple of different variants. Then if I go to mobile, it will give me a couple of different dimensions for common mobile resolutions. And you'll notice these are actually a lot larger than the ones on the website for 2018. Older mobile devices and screens in general had 72 pixels per inch, which in comparison to print is pretty different. Print has 300 dpi, but a lot of newer phones actually have a lot more pixels per inch on them than they used to. So while this is kind of a standard older resolution, 360 by 640 or something along those lines, now we have these dimensions that are pretty much the same as an actual desktop. Some other software that you might end up using if you're interested in web design, you might end up using Adobe XD or Xure RP. Now these will also give you common sizes. So here they have a list of different phone dimensions. Here they have iPhone, and they're doing 414 by 896. They have a couple of older versions too. Most of theirs are iPhone. Here we have different dimensions for iPad. And if you notice, tablets are kind of the same size as a smaller desktop. So you can actually kind of do both at the same time. And make sure that you also consider having resolutions for both the vertical version and the horizontal. Here we have a couple of different dimensions for web. And then same thing with Xure, we can kind of choose based off of common presets. Here we have 1200 by any and above. We also have portrait tablet, they're doing 768, phone 480, portrait phone 320. So you can kind of use these as starting points, and then you can use breakpoints to specifically change things based off of when your designs start to look like they're starting to have more issues. For now, you can use the general breakpoints of what your homework assignment is and just kind of use this as a starting point as well. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. Here I have a link that's called Responsive Web Design Is. And this is just a really great website in general for looking at responsive web design. What I really like about it is this getting inspired. This can help you, especially as you're trying to think about how your website should kind of change how it looks as it's changing sizes. You can kind of start by using the examples from class or the homework assignments, but I do want you to really consider, I really want you to think that this is your opportunity to really let your own designs kind of step to the front and kind of show us what you are actually capable of doing and interested in. So you can kind of look at these. Some of them might not quite fit. For your assignment, you do need to have two columns and have it break down into a single column. But here you can kind of see how the navigation is changing, how the pictures might change depending on how they're going to fit, what happens to the background. So you can use this as inspiration. I also have this responsive web design 50 examples and best practices. This can also help just kind of act as inspiration. Some of these you can actually visit the sites. Some of them don't work anymore. But again, we have kind of this two column, it breaks down into one, and then here some of the images end up changing sizes or disappearing. We have this navigation kind of breakdown, so it's smaller. This one's kind of an interesting design. This one changes from having kind of these large kind of filler boxes for images and then it disappears. Another resource that I would suggest is this, the Designer's Web Handbook, What You Need to Know to Create for the Web. This is a really good basic book that covers a lot of the same things that we've talked about in class, but more from the design side. And the author for this actually has a really great series. So they have this one that kind of breaks down the individual parts, and then they actually have this series of idea books. And the idea books just kind of cover a bunch of different trends, and each one is broken down into different styles. So here, this has different types of sites, so blog, forum, event, e-commerce, free script, church, personal, design firm, and then they have design styles, so retro, minimalist, super clean, distressed, by themes, nature, food, old paper, by colors. Here we have by different elements, so by icons, days and calendars, rounded corners. So if you ever find yourself kind of in a rut and you can't figure out what you might want to do next for your design, this is a really good book that has examples of websites, and you can actually go to the websites too. They have the addresses next to them for you to check out, and then he gives a bit of an explanation for kind of how these work. Additionally, he has the Mobile Web Designer's Idea book, and this also takes a look at mobile design and how you can kind of look at a desktop versus a mobile site. Here we have defining mobile approaches, frameworks, responsive elements, design styles, design elements, site types. So here we have kind of the comparison of desktop versus the mobile version. And again, really great examples of different sites that can kind of help inspire you in the future when you are creating your own websites. Next, I have these links that are going to cover how you can kind of preview your designs. You may have noticed before that when we were looking at JavaScript in my site, I went to the inspect element. This allows you to look at the code on a website, but we also have this option of clicking on responsive design mode. And by doing this, we can kind of preview based off of actual different devices. So rather than just resizing a window to see how it looks at certain sizes, we can actually preview it as Galaxy S9, iPad, and right now these are the ones I have on here. I can edit the list too. I can add devices so I can see what it looks like on a television or a laptop screen. And then I would be able to switch this up here. So this is really great. So right now I'm in Firefox, and I have a link to how to do this with Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. So we could also take a look at this in Chrome. So if I go up here, go to more tools, developer tools, again, I can kind of see the code in here. I can look at the elements, any sort of scripts. Here I have this toggle device toolbar. And again, I can choose different types of phones. I can edit the list. I can look at it as an iPad, Galaxy S5. We can see a laptop. So then we could preview it again. So I would encourage you to not only look at your websites when you're creating them by changing the window size to see how they look, but also test it that way. And then also, before you even turn in your work, once you've published it, it's just a good idea to actually check that link on an actual device as well. You can emulate what the design's going to look like, but there might be certain things that aren't taken into account until it's actually on a device. So use these to help. I have future resources to check out. In the last video, I talked about open processing in p5.js. In the future, you'll probably be taking a JavaScript class, which I also highly recommend that you do, so that way you can kind of learn more about how you can create interactive websites. If you're interested in just learning more in general, I would suggest looking at lynda.com, Codecademy, and Udemy. Lynda.com is a really great website, and if you have a library card in the Johnson County area, and pretty much anywhere in Kansas City, I believe the Olathe libraries have this, and I think some of the Kansas City, Missouri libraries also have access. And most libraries do. Our school library doesn't, though. But you should be able to, for example, I'm just going to go to the Johnson County Library, and a lot of times you'll find it under their databases. So if I go to research, databases, problem is you have to know what you're looking for. It will prompt you to type in your library card number and then your library card PIN. So I'm just going to go back to the basic lynda.com, and we can actually browse by a bunch of different topics. It's not limited just to web. So if you're interested in digital media, there's a ton of resources here as well. For example, if you're interested in learning about Photoshop, they have not only videos, but they have entire courses that you can take that can walk you through. They have files that you can download and you can use. So this would be a really great way of kind of supplementing to your learning. You can choose based off of skill level. So here, if you're interested in learning more about JavaScript, there's different videos that you can watch for JavaScript. If you're interested in, let's say, user experience, there's different videos and courses that you can watch to learn more about user experience. They also have let's see if I can get it. They also have these learning paths. So we can click on this. This kind of takes the courses to the next level, depending on what potential career path you might be interested in. So we could go to web. Let's say you are interested in becoming a front-end web developer. They have a bunch of videos and courses already prepared, so it's kind of compiling a bunch of them together. So what they would recommend is learning web development foundations. Here they have user experience. They have HTML essential training, CSS, JavaScript, responsive layout. So going more into these topics, so if you wanted to kind of add on to your experience at Johnson County Community College, this would be a really great way to do it. I love this website. I'm always going in and trying to find out more possible things that I might want to research. Another website is Code Academy. They're really great for learning how to work with code. So let's go to web development. And I know that JavaScript is often a topic that students end up struggling with, so we're going to actually take a look at this real quick, see if we can preview it. And I believe that it's free to sign up. I think you have to sign in though to actually see anything, so I'm just going to use my sign in real quick. Alright, so what I like is they have their directions over here, and I might see if I can find a better starting point. So what they have is they have a bunch of directions on the side, and then they have certain steps, and I've already kind of gone through these so they're already checked, but if you haven't, what they'll do is they'll give you different directions, and then you will type them into this section here, and then if you run it, it'll show up over on the right. And so as you're working, if you complete something, it'll give you a check mark and let you know that you've done it. If you're stuck, you can click on this Get a Hint. And then if you need even more help than that, they have community forums. So this can be really helpful because sometimes you just don't know what you're getting wrong and you need a little bit more guidance. I would recommend this for working with different code. So you'll see they have a bunch of different languages. They have HTML and CSS, Python, JavaScript, Java, SQL, Bash Shell, Ruby, C++. You could give the HTML and CSS a try, especially if you're feeling a little bit like you need some more practice. I would say that the HTML and CSS courses on lynda.com are also very good too, so if you wanted to practice that more as well, you would have the opportunity. But they have a ton of different courses that you can go through kind of at your own pace. And then this is another website that's pretty similar to Lynda. They also have a bunch of different categories that you can choose from. Like Lynda, you do need to pay for it, but it's less common, I believe, that libraries will have kind of free versions for you to use. So while you probably can access Lynda for free through your public library, it might be more difficult for you to actually get access to Udemy. I would suggest starting with the other two before you might come over here. But they also have courses on like web development, design. So if you wanted to, you could check this out as well. Alright, so that's all I have for responsive design and future resources. If you have other suggestions, you can make a comment on week 7 questions, comments, and concerns, so that way other people can check those out as well.